Hey guys, welcome back to Fiona's Universe, or welcome if you're new. Do I usually say hi guys or hi friends? I don't know. Who cares? Also, please mind how exhausted I look. It's just the truth. It doesn't matter if you're new here or if you've been here before. I wanted to do this AuthorTube newbie tag my way, I guess, but more to just introduce myself officially because I have not done anything like this on YouTube ever. I eventually want to do a Q&A, but I kind of just want to collect questions for that over time. So for now, we're gonna do this because then I can choose the questions. And yes, when other people do this on YouTube, they tend to use the preset questions. I think there's two different sets of questions out there. I don't know, I did a little bit of research, but not a lot. Anyway, I'm not following all of those. I'm taking some of them, but also I wrote this whole plan while I was in class before watching any AuthorTube newbie videos. So some of them might coincidentally overlap with those that you may have seen before, but I'm just doing it my own way. I'm gonna try not to yap too severely today because you guys know. And when I start talking about myself, it's worse, which is a really bad thing. We're gonna start with the very basic questions. Are just gonna be kind of about me, I guess. And if you have other about me type questions, please ask them in the comments and I will either respond or put them in the Q&A. But for starters, I am Fiona, duh, and I go by my name in I guess the author space and in my books. So Fiona Holland is gonna be on all the covers, and yeah, I think it's a pretty good author name. There's still a part of me that wants to have a pen name just because I would get to create it, but I've been Fiona on the internet for so long now, I feel it'd be kind of hard to switch up on people, if that makes sense. And honestly, it just is. It's who I feel I need to be with my books. That made no sense. I'm also 19 years old. I turned 19 in September and I'm gonna be 20 this year. Can we take a moment of silence for that, please? I go to university and I'm in my second year, my fourth term. Kind of crazy. I'm halfway done my degree after March or April, I guess. But I'm in English / creative and professional writing. I never know how to explain my degree, but it's a honors arts degree. In that, I don't talk about my schooling very much on here. Originally, I wanted to make the whole channel about it years ago, but yeah, you'll see some more stuff about school once I start getting more into my creative writing studies, but right now I'm just in a bunch of boring random classes, not loving it. I also live in Ontario, Canada, so for all of you who say from my TikTok that I look like I'm from the UK or assume that I'm American, I'm not either of those, but I mean, yeah, it's not too exciting, guys. I also thought I should say I live in a small town, that's where my family lives, but I live in the city for school, so I have this apartment, and then next week probably you'll see me, ooh, that's a lie, at some point you'll see me at my house in my pink and gray room. And then the last sort of thing I had to say about myself, it kind of goes with AuthorTube, and it's that I really locked in with AuthorTube in either October or November. It probably was the last week of October. I could be lying, I don't know, guys, but I was gearing up for NaNoWriMo and I finally was just I don't care if this gets no views, we're doing it, because I was originally doing some AuthorTube but some Redbubble mostly content because it kind of took off when I first posted about it. My whole goal on here was to be a book and AuthorTube channel, but since 2023, yeah, early 2023, so I eventually was after a really long break from YouTube, this channel, I was I just want to post what I want to post, and if people want to watch, they can watch. Also, similarly to what they'll ask you in the literary industry about what sets your book apart, what is your book adding to this oversaturated space, I really walked into AuthorTube thinking that there was something missing, and that was this like element of transparency to the point where like you share so much about your book that they feel like the audience, that is, feels like they're right there with you. And I just have never really found that, to be quite honest with you. The closest I found is Anna New, who's my favorite AuthorTuber, and every other one I've watched for the most part, I feel like there's a disconnect because I just want to know about their projects. So yeah, I talked all about that in my AuthorTube hot takes video, but yeah, that's like the gist of it, is that I felt like I had something that I hadn't seen to bring to the table. And also I've written like a lot of books, which we're gonna get into, and I obviously don't have very many outlets to talk about those in my life, as most writers do, so I turn to the internet, as a lot of us do as well. This little section is from the AuthorTube newbie tag. I'm clearly not an AuthorTube newbie either. I thought I should say that one more time. I've been doing it for like a few months, but I've never done this, so here we go. But yeah, the genres I write in, basically all of them. I've played around in all of them at least. Primarily, I enjoy things that have fantastical elements and magic. That's just like my preference. However, my favorite book I've ever written is called A Girl Called Love. You'll hear me talk about it a lot, and it's a standard mystery romance. I always have romance in my books, always. Not in all my stories, but in my books. And then I've written dystopian. I have a dystopian trilogy. You can watch me talk about it. I've written, again, standard romance. I've written mystery, again, Partial Stars and A Girl Called Love. I've written fantasy, Something Nameless, the Nameless series. Again, made a video about it. And yeah, I'm currently writing in like a more gothic romantasy. I would have to say at this very moment in time, my favorite genre is romantasy, to both read and write. Here's where I have some more opinions, so buckle up. I honestly would say I am anything but a pantser. I'm like a firm believer that pantsing should not exist and that it does not give successful outcomes 80% of the time. So no offense to the pantsers out there, but I've heard a lot of people on my TikTok mostly who are like, I can never finish my book, I can never finish my book. And then I ask them how they plot their books and they say they didn't. No wonder you got stuck. I'll share my opinions on that in a whole separate video one day, but yeah, I'm, I guess, a plantser because I don't plan out every single thing and hold myself to that. I know the beginning, middle, and end of my story, a lot of the random details, all of the characters, the setting, but as I write, I learn things and I add things and I change things. So call that whatever you want. And then I use first person past tense, and you will never, ever, ever, ever see me write anything different except for in my Dramini fanfic and in a few short stories I had to write for school. Moving right along, this is going to be a bit of a more girthy one, for lack of a better word. Anyway, I have written 10 novels. Sometimes I say 11 because on my master doc of all my works, it's 11. Because I have 4 named, which is the novella from the Nameless series. It's a very like long, fleshed out story from Dragon's perspective, but it's technically not a novel. So we're gonna go with 10/11. Okay. I also did something I've never done before for this video, and it was break down the number of books I've written at each age. So technically I've written like a lot in my childhood, like of books, but I'm gonna start at age 14. And I wrote 1 when I was 14. I wrote 2 when I was 15. I wrote 1 when I was 16, 3 when I was 17, 2 when I was 18, plus the novella, and then 1 when I was 19 so far. I'm gonna make some other videos about like my initial works, but I do want to talk about them a little bit in this video, obviously, because I think it's so cool to hear about how people got into writing. There actually is a story of how I learned that I want to be a writer. There's actually a few stories, and they're very ironic, and like they kind of scare me because I'm like, you know, this has to be fate. This has to be the universe. But essentially the first like conscious memory I have of having this insane passion for writing is when I was 6, and I wrote this story about a squirrel and an acorn. So yeah, I got serious about my writing around age 11. Grade 6 was sort of like a turning point for me, I guess. Like I feel like that's when I became more conscious and like more me in a way. I was still really weird and like 11 years old obviously, but I remember I wrote this story. I'll talk about this more in depth in another video, but I wrote this story about a girl who couldn't find her thing, aka her passion or her career or whatever, and I was sitting there like, what is my, like, that's why I wrote it. I was like, what is my thing? Like, I'm trying to like learn and research all these different hobbies and stuff. Meanwhile, I'm writing a book. I've always found that really funny and like ironic. But yeah, when I was 11, I also was required to write this sequel or spin-off to a book we read in class called Wildwood. And my teacher made the outline for this like very random, like, and not very like straightforward, I guess. So everyone in my class basically wrote like a page of like what they would have happen in the story. Meanwhile, I sat there for a month and wrote an entire sequel. So that was the first like properly constructed novel that I wrote. I don't count it in the like I wrote 10 novels, and you'll hear some other things I don't count, but it works and I still think I have access to it, so I will read it to you someday. From what I remember, that was like one of the first times when I had this like voracious like need to keep writing. Like I couldn't stop, and I think that's when I knew, and my teacher also knew and like affirmed to me that like, oh yeah, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Moving on, I also wrote a 5-book middle grade series with 2 of my best friends when we were 12 and 13, and I don't want to talk about it right now because we're gonna make tons of videos about it, but I don't count those 5 books in the 10 books that I've written. I'm gonna get into that in future videos, but that's a thing I did. We also queried them. So yeah, that's fun. In terms of my modern day projects, I have roughly 2 whips that I'm actually working on. More like 1 at this point because I'm kind of like locked in with Project Reaper. I talked about it in my last video, so definitely go watch that. But I have like this master doc that I mentioned earlier of all my whips and completed works and everything. And I have 16 other whips. So 17 if you count the one that I'm kind of shelving for now. A few of these are just ideas, such as like book 3 of the Nameless series. I have that plotted, but regardless, like I'm not consciously writing it because I haven't even written the whole of book 2 yet. And then 2 of them are short fiction. I have 1 prose book ongoing and 1 short story collection ongoing. But still, people like to criticize me for how many whips I have. I don't care. The ones that are supposed to be out there will get done, and the ones that aren't. I feel like it's such a good thing to be well-rounded and explore lots of different genres and stories until you find the ones that really stick. Let's talk a little bit about publishing. I have stories about this too, but I want to be a hybrid author, I think. I'm almost sure of that. I've been leaning more towards self-publishing lately, or like at least small publishing houses, but I have experience with those and it's not good experience. Anyway, yeah, I want to self-publish a lot of short fiction works just to like have it out there. I don't know. I do a lot of like short fiction writing for school and for myself, so why not put it out there and make it cute and fun and have a nice little book for people to have. But yeah, I've already done that once. I don't want to talk about it really. We'll talk about that book, if you can even call it that, someday in a whole video. The one that I self-published. And I traditionally published almost once. So that's also going to be a video. But I've been querying again since the age of 12. So not consistently, but like that was the first time I did it. And then I've done it throughout the years. Occasionally. We'll get more into like my debut and when I talk about future plans, which is like the next category I sort of have to talk about. I don't even think I introduced this category. We're talking about writing stuff, okay? You'd probably caught on to that by now. Anyway, let's talk about inspiration. In terms of books that inspired me, when I was 5, my dad read me and my sister the series of Unfortunate Events. All 13 books of them, or 12 books of them. 13. And that was when I was like infatuated with not only reading but writing. Like I remember spending hours looking at these characters and being like, how could I do that, you know? And that was when I was in kindergarten. My favorite author is Tahira Mafi. I think her last name is pronounced Mafi, not Mafi, but I could be wrong, so I apologize. But she's my favorite author. I think there's like 2 people in the world that if I met them in person I would break into sob. And that would be Emma Watson and Tahira Mafi. So yeah, I really want to meet her. I would just love to. She wrote Shatter Me and I don't remember what her other series is called. I feel like such a fake fan. This Woven Kingdom. Yeah, That's what it's called, I think. I'm pretty sure. I started reading that one, but I have too many things to read, so, you know, I can't do it right now. But yeah, Shatter Me is my favorite. I don't want to hear any Shatter Me slander in the comments. I don't want to hear it. I hear enough of it in my personal life. Okay, future plans, and then we're gonna move into like long-term goals. They kind of go hand in hand, but like you'll see how they're different because the long-term goals are like, whoa, Fiona, settle down, you know? Keep dreaming, but I will. For my debut, I'm picking from 11 books here, people. Actually, there's a few fan fictions in there that I can't publish, obviously, but I'm thinking something nameless. The only problem I have with that is that I don't want something nameless to be like on my backlist, you know? Like if one day one of my other series, their books blow up, something nameless is like, I see it as more of one of my primary works. But anyway, you never know what could happen. I also might do Partial Stars, which is the one that I originally had a publishing deal for last year. I'll tell that story someday. But yeah, I can see Partial Stars being on the backlist. I'm so proud of it though. Like, it's been through so much, and I started it when I was 15, finished it when I was 17, queried it when I was 18, so it's been on a huge journey. And it feels right that it's my debut, but it might be a self-published debut, if that makes sense. And I worry, like I think all authors have to do, that it's not as much of a representation of the stories I tell now. It's definitely a representation of my writing for the most part, but I feel like my romance arcs and my magic creation and stuff in my fantasy works and my dystopian and stuff, it's so much like different. I don't want to say better. Even like A Girl Called Love compared to Partial Stars is just like a maturity difference. But I definitely love Partial Stars, and I was gonna have it published in December of last year, so it's meant to be out there maybe. I don't know, let me know what you guys think. And also it could be another book. Like I can see, I don't know guys. I can see pretty much any of them being my debut, except for maybe Saturn's Sun, because that one has a lot of in it, so we're not no, that one's not seeing the light of day in print. It's on Wattpad. The one I'm currently writing to, Project Reaper, is adult. I typically write young adult, but I've dabbled into adult, don't worry. Another future plan I have, like the near future, is to publish my prose book. I've been working on it, but then I got kind of like hooked on Project Reaper. It doesn't need much work, the prose book, and I also have like the whole like thematic stuff figured out and like the aesthetic of it, so it's like pretty much there. The formatting and stuff takes a long time, but I'm gonna do videos on like tutorials and stuff on how I do it. So yeah, that should hopefully be really fun content for you guys. And as I've said multiple times now, I'm currently writing Project Reaper. It's a gothic, dark, romantasy standalone book. I'm almost sure of it. I would love to write more about these characters, but I do think it's a standalone. So there you go. There would be a vlog about it coming out next week or the week after. And I also was writing another whip, A Ode to Amity, in that video. Moving on to long-term goals. And these are like kind of out there, but I don't think there's such thing as dreaming too big. Basically my whole life I've been told that like I need to dull down my dreams, and like that certain things in life are just unattainable. When I look around and see that so many people have attained it, how silly. But yeah, I have some like very large goals with my writing. So some of them I haven't even written down because I don't want to admit it on the internet because they're just for me. The first one is to have adaptations. I think most authors have that thought at some point where they're like, what if this was on screen someday? I really want film adaptations of a few of my books, not all of them, but like I think A Girl Called Love would be a freaking amazing movie. It reminds me almost of The Tearsmith because I fan casted Rigel as Callias. It's nothing like The Tearsmith though in terms of the story, but I feel like the atmosphere could be somewhat similar. I don't know, but it's like such a mysterious book. I would also love if Partial Stars was adapted for film, because the vibes of it are almost like Where the Crawdads Sing. Such a good whole creation right there. But yeah, I obviously would love if my fantasy stuff was also adapted, but typically people are doing TV series for like fantasy lately, even though we have a huge huge gap in romantic-y movies. There's like none of them unless you look back in the 2000s. Anyway, I won't get into that. But yeah, obviously want to adapt my stuff. And I would love to be a writer on those projects. Video slash a producer, I guess. I'm not gonna ever just sell my works for the sake of getting an adaptation though. Like, I want it done right. And that means that I choose the cast. Like, with the help of the casting directors, obviously. But like, I need my story in my brain to come to life. So yeah. Apparently I'm ravenously hungry. And I didn't even notice. When I got home, I was like, I don't need to cook anything. I'm not hungry. You're dumb, actually. I'm eating chocolate Ritz. Please ignore if you hear Vidya meowing. She's fine. She's just beyond the door and she's mad about it. Sorry, girl, I have to film. Anyway, the next thing is a book tour. Book tours for my different projects. I feel like, again, this is something that all authors want and dream about. But I genuinely feel like there would be nothing more fun for me than sitting in front of you guys, I guess, my readers, and answering questions about my books and my writing process and helping other people who want to write. And I don't know. I think that would just be the most fun. Vidya's now inside the room. Hi, buddy. Hi, honey. I wrote Vidya into my dystopian trilogy. Then I did. Because you're such a good cat. She's a calico. Very pretty. I named the cat Vigor after her because her name's Vidya, so it reminded me of that. Next is a podcast, which like I'm probably just gonna do on YouTube, honestly. But like more just like yappy videos rather than like structured ones. But all my videos are kind of yappy, but anyway. Like me talking about things that annoy me in books and writing and AuthorTube, and also things that I love and opinions that I have because I love to share. The next one is like huge for me and it's a fantasy book launch. When I say fantasy book launch, I mean for my fantasy series, and that obviously is Something Nameless, the Nameless series. I keep calling it Something Nameless. That's the first book. But yeah, I really want to have a fantasy book launch for that at a castle with ball gowns and characters dressed up, and I actually like need that to happen. Like it must. That's like my absolute must. Even if it's a smaller thing with just like my friends, I would love for it to be more of like a bigger thing where I could have some of my audience and my readers come as well, and like people who post on BookTube or Book Talk. I don't know, I feel like it could be so much fun. But yeah, that's like something I've talked about on TikTok a little bit, and I really want to do a series on here where I plan it for the future, because obviously you can't have a book launch without, you know, a published book. I'm playing around with the idea of doing it for the third book because by then it will be more of an established thing, I hope. But yeah, I'm so excited about that. And then last is something that I'm so grateful that I already have a taste of. Jeez, Fiona. But it's fan art or fan edits, and fan is such a stupid word in my opinion, but like art resembling my characters or my worlds, and that includes like videos. But I have actually had one of my friends, Hisha, she made me 2 of my characters. Actually, no, she just did Love 2. She did 3 of my characters. And I was like so stunned. I was too stunned to speak when I saw those all. I'm like, deep breaths, basically. She's just great, and I absolutely love her style and everything. And oh my god, like just seeing my characters like sketched out on a paper is like insane, and like I'm so grateful for that. She also was a beta reader for me for Partial Stars, and she knows a lot about my projects because she follows my TikTok, and we're also friends. So I'm gonna eat another cookie, but that's the last thing I had to talk about. I just realized I've been talking a lot about my TikTok, and like I got started on TikTok doing writing content sort of around the same time I posted like a couple AuthorTube videos, and I've been posting on TikTok for about 4 years. It'll be 5 years this year, which is crazy. But yeah, I have a bit of a bigger following over there. I have like nearing 60k followers, which is like so grateful. But yeah, I post over there if you're interested about my projects and all that, and writing tips. Fun. One more fun fact about me. I have this tattoo. It says art. It's from my books, and it's more symbolic than that. I could go on about that for days, but I also want to get tattoos for my other books, depending on where they all go and how much, you know, significance they have in, you know, 5-10 years. But I really want to get some sort of lightning, which symbolizes my dystopian series. You will know soon what that means. And I want to get a dragon on this arm. I'm saving like this shoulder or maybe my back for a dragon. And I'm gonna get Kato or Rozu from the Nameless series. I can't wait. And then also like some other little ones, like I would get slash for project slash or below, above and beyond. That's what they're called. My dystopian trilogy. And there's so many other things I could get. My dad also has drawn me like this thing for Partial Stars. I would get that tattooed if Partial Stars sees the light of day. And yeah, I can't really think of anything else off the top of my head, but I want to get a lot of tattoos for my projects because I love them, and don't judge me. I also want to get Ignite from Shatter Me, like so badly. And obviously that's not my book, but just a fun fact for you. How I know that I love my characters so much is that like I love Aaron Warner, obviously, the Ignite tattoo, so much, like more than anything in the world. Like he's my favorite book boyfriend of all time. But like my characters, like they're equal to him in my head. Like Callias, Riven, Lord, Draven, they're all the same, but they're not all the same. They're very different, but they're all in the same caliber of how much I love that. So take that as you will. Anyway, we've kind of diverged from the newbie tag, and we're more diverging into the rambling tag. So hopefully you've had fun with this video getting to know me. I know I have had fun talking about myself. So if you have any questions, let me know. If you want to share anything about your writing journey or your writing currently, please do in the comments. I would love to hear about your projects. And yeah, stick around for more videos. I also just sorted my playlists more, so if you're interested in seeing like my writing vlogs, or I made like a category for author things, which is more about like anything publishing related, and like I don't know how else to describe it. I made one for tips. You get the idea by now, so you can explore and figure out what you like to watch from me. Anyway guys, I love you so much. I hope that you'll stick around for more videos, and I love you, like I already said. I'm so grateful for you, and I can't wait to make so many more writing videos forever.